Coulthard is Mr. Cool on the back of a flawless 10-point maximum last time at Imola. Teammate Mika Häkkänen's frozen him out so far in Spain, with a bit to spare as well.
The car couldn't believe we could have. We could have improved the car a little bit, but we didn't want to take any risks.
Race day at the Catalunya circuit above Barcelona. We've had conflicting weather reports here. No rain so far, but who will rain in Spain? Hello, good afternoon. The McLarens seems to be the popular answer to that. Michael Schumacher has wrung his best out of his Ferrari. The Benettons have had an excellent qualifying day. The British drivers, Eddie Irvine, Johnny Herbert and Damon Hill, have had their moments. But they've all been playing supporting roles to the runaway championship leaders.
With the temperature rising steadily, the cars were early onto the track for the start of qualifying, and both McLarens were eager to show what they could do. It was no surprise to see Mika Häkkinen setting the early pace, and a high standard for everyone to follow. Even teammate David Coulthard struggled to match the Finn. His first lap was 8/10 slower. A new exhaust system has improved the Ferrari's handling, but Schumacher still wasn't happy with the car and aborted his first run. But Williams were even further off the pace. The world champions have made little progress with their car for this race. In contrast, McLaren go from strength to strength.
Any time now we're going to see the time on the computer screen. Yes, he's got into the mid-20s. What a great lap.
Almost half a second quicker, despite being held up by a Tyrrell. The two Benetton drivers played cat and mouse all afternoon. Burt's pushed hard to get third slot, then it was Fisichella's turn to lead the chase, and the pair swapped third and fourth positions throughout most of the session. Jordan continued to make progress. Damon Hill finished 8th, out-qualifying teammate Ralf Schumacher, but Williams continued to struggle. Jacques Villeneuve only just scraped into the top 10, and Frentzen couldn't even manage that. He finished up 13th. Johnny Herbert headed home with a smile on his face, though well satisfied with his 7th on the grid. But Häkkinen wasn't satisfied with his pole time. He set an even faster lap before parking his McLaren at the end of the day. Michael Schumacher gave it one final push and improved his position by 2 places.
121.7, as the team said they could do, 3rd place.
And Eddie Irvine was 6th. Better times for Rubens Barrichello. His Bridgestone shod Stewards finished up 9th, the team's best qualifying position so far this season. Once again, it was Magnussen who had all the problems. A broken oil pump put him into the spare car and down into 18th. But if Magnussen had problems, they were nothing compared to Ricardo Rosset. First he upset Giancarlo Fisichella, then he upset the entire Tyrrell team by failing to qualify. Taika Takagi survived the only spin of the day, but he only just scraped into the race, 21st and last. David Coulthard's day ended as it had begun. He qualified 2nd, but he was still 7/10 slower than Mika Häkkinen. The Finn has been in dominant form all weekend, and he's clearly enjoying his success.
I have in this Grand Prix, I have special shoes, and they're very heavy.
Especially the right one.
No, there is no secret. There's no secrets there. There's no question of do I like this circuit or I don't like this circuit. It's nothing like that. There is pure logic behind it, why performance is so good here. We've done a great job, and we have improved the car.
I just wasn't able to catch Mika. He was very confident, so well done to him. He got the most out of the car and tried a few different setup changes, but I just couldn't really get the car talking to me, and it was a bit of a struggle really to be that far behind.
It was a good run where I almost didn't miss out anything. There was one corner I could have maybe just taken another half-tenths, but that's about it.
It's historically a Bridgestone circuit. We haven't tested here that much, which probably hurt us a little bit as well, but I think we're probably lacking a little bit in the tyres.
What are your realistic expectations for the race?
To be honest, we have to be lucky to be 3rd at the moment.
we have a weak rear end, and this is a track where if the balance is not right, it's even more difficult to drive than it was in Imola, for example. The balance isn't too bad. You know, the car is good, but it's just that every other car is better.
But actually, it's frustrating not to be one row ahead, because we had the chance to go, but it's pleased not to be at 12 as well, because it was so close, the grid. So I think we did a good job.
We qualified 8th. We wanted to qualify better, but I think we're in very good shape for the race, and that's the important thing.
So the grid, the McLarens at the sharp end again. Michael Schumacher's Ferrari in front of the Benettons, Fisichella and Wurz. Then the British contingent, Irvine, Herbert and Hill. Barrichello Stewart makes the top 10 in front of the world champion Villeneuve. Then Ralf Schumacher, Olivier Panis, Frentzen a distant 13th in the Williams, Alesi with plenty to do. Trulli between the arrows of Diniz and Sarlo. Magnussen battling to keep his seat at Stewart's, only the Minardis and Takagi's Tyrrell behind him. Rosset failing to qualify. And welcome to our trackside home. Warm and dry, bit of wind around, as you can probably see with the flags behind me, but certainly not the conditions that Michael Schumacher was wanting. Today I'm joined by my regular mucker, Tony Jardine. Hi, Tony. Hi. And by Derek Warwick, who brings with him around 150 Grand Prix drives and 13 years experience in this game. We heard Michael Schumacher there saying, Derek, third at best. You go along with that?
Well, it is really. The Ferrari, he's wrung everything he can out of the Ferrari. The car's been dancing all weekend. In typical Michael form, he's just manhandled it around the circuit. The McLarens are way ahead, and, you know, if everything goes to plan, the best he can hope for is the third step.
The whole of Britain is probably asking, can David Coulthard do it again here?
Well, the one thing David's got, he makes blistering starts, but unfortunately, Mika's making them as well. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting whether team orders prevail, and if David gets into the corner first, you have to wonder whether or not team orders will allow that situation to carry on, because Mika has blown him away all weekend. Right. So it should be Mika's race, but maybe David will lead in the first corner.
Tony, how do you see those team orders? Will we see a genuine scrap between those two McLarens?
Well, I hope so. It should be a no-holds-barred contest. Let's hope there's no team orders. What David's got to do, as Derek says, try and make one of his lightning starts. If he doesn't get ahead, he's got to stick with Hakkinen. He's got to really pressure the Finn as much as he can, get him ragged, make him run wide, maybe dive through that gap. What he's not got to do is take his McLaren out and Mika's McLaren out, otherwise he'll be in big trouble with McLaren.
Word from you about the other British hopefuls?
Great, yeah. You know, 6th, 7th and 8th on the grid. Irvine, then Herbert in good shape, running on the soft Goodyears. The Sauber Petronas going very well. Damon saying, OK, he had a problem with the balance this morning. He was well down after warm-up, but we should see the Brits go well. OK, thank you both for the moment. Anyway, right, let's have a word with Murray Walker, shall we? Now, Murray, the race has moved around a little bit, but we normally get a decent spectacle here.
Jim, Spain may not be the first country in the world that springs to mind when you think of Formula One, and its citizens may be more interested in motorcycle racing and rallying, but that doesn't mean to say that it hasn't got a distinguished Grand Prix history. Since 1950, the race has been held at 5 different circuits, and I've seen some absolutely fabulous races. 1981, when Gilles Villeneuve won, and only just over a second covered the first 5 home. 1995, when Michael Schumacher finished second, despite being stuck in top gear for much of the race. More of the same today? Well, like I say, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does.
That's right, Murray. Nothing is certain in this or any other sport. OK, let's take a closer look at the circuit de Catalunya, built in the early 90s. It's a really tough one for the drivers. They test here extensively, but the circuit can change characteristics very quickly indeed. OK, here's Martin Brundle with his look at the tests ahead for the drivers at the Spanish Grand Prix.
By far the best of the modern tracks, Circuit de Catalunya. Lots of high-speed corners, a great test for both the driver and the designer, just under 3 miles. Here in Barcelona, it's an unusually long pit straight, up to 190 miles an hour before coming into the Elf chicane, the first corner, one of the few genuine overtaking places around this track. Some positive camber, lots of grip, and the curbs are very smooth. A good exit is very necessary here to catapult towards the never-ending Renault curve. You have to wait initially, and then you can let the car run to the outside. You build up to 170 miles an hour before Repsol. Sayat corner. You arrive at 150 miles an hour, and you've got to lose 100 of those before you arrive to this point. Witness the black lines behind me. Very easy to lock your brakes because the track is downhill, the driver's always tempted to go in that little bit deeper. You're at driver's eye level and you're doing 150 miles an hour, just heading towards Campsa over my left shoulder. All that's in your line of sight is a mud bank. You have to turn in fourth gear and keep the throttle down with total and blind faith. Towards the end of the lap, there are two slower corners, the left and this right here. Ironically, you can lose more time through those than some of the faster ones as you wait to get on the throttle. This circuit is very peculiar, has a lot of ripples, almost a washboard effect. Can make you feel a little queasy in the beginning. After 10 laps, you forget about it. No point in changing the car, the corners are far more important. You'll see the driver fighting the steering wheel and the back of the car as he applies the throttle. Then two thrilling corners to the end of the lap. The track falls away, take a breather on the throttle, now brace yourself for the last turn. The steering is heavy, but you have to stay with it, drive to the line, into a new lap.
It really is a difficult one. Derek, what's it going to be like today? You've driven here.
Well, obviously it's a very physical circuit because you've got 3 or 4 corners where you're pulling maximum G loading, where they're going to be pulling something like about 3 or 4 G. So physically it's very demanding. Also, as Martin said just now, you've got this washboard effect, and it takes a lot out of the driver with his arms and his neck. So it's a tough old circuit, and at the end of the race, they know they're going to do a full Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, let's have a word with one of the great figures of Formula One who's done his share of work on tough circuits around the world. I'm talking about Niki Lauda, the Austrian 3-time world champion in the 70s and the 80s. Now, Tony's been talking to Niki Lauda about the battle to be top man in '98.
Niki, good to see you at a Grand Prix yet again. Shades of McLaren winning from like the times that you remember, but who's going to win, you reckon? Hakkinen or Coulthard? Who's got it?
I spoke yesterday to Hakkinen and I asked him why the hell was he so slow in the last couple of races. The real problem in a Ron Dennis team is you have to make sure the team knows where to go to. So that means in every practice, in every qualifying, in every free practice, you have to make sure that you're the quickest guy in the team. And Hakkinen has done a great job here in Barcelona. So if he continues to out-qualify Coulthard, in the end he will win. But that's the real key question to the whole team battle. Because if one race David is ahead and the next race is Hakkinen ahead, this is bad for the team, because then they can never decide where to go to. So therefore the only way to win in the team is to make sure that you are the #1 guy by performance.
Niki, will Ron have to make a choice between one or the other drivers?
He wouldn't care, because the only one guy who wants to win is Ron Dennis himself. So he doesn't really care which of the two drivers will bring him to this result.
So they're getting equal treatment?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, McLaren always has enough money to prepare both cars in the same way.
Okay, another of your World Championship teams, Ferrari. What's happening there?
It's simple. I think Ferrari is still doing a good job if you compare the Ferrari team with the rest of the field. Look where Williams is. I mean, they are really doing the same job as last year, and unfortunately the McLarens are so much ahead. So really you have 2 races here. One is the McLaren team themselves, and then it's the rest of the group.
Great character. Tony, he says a McLaren boss, Ron Dennis, just doesn't care. They're winning anywhere. Who cares about team orders?
He doesn't care anyway. You see why we nicknamed him the Rat when we were at Bramley. They don't care. Because he's not Ferrari's advisor anymore, he's saying what he really feels, which is great to get the gritty comments. But he's the real barometer. He knows Ron Dennis very well, and Ron wants to win the Constructors. He wants to win the world title. Hopefully that's good news for David Coulthard. He doesn't mind which driver wins the championship.
Okay, well, let's continue to open up the world of Formula One for you by looking at an essential piece of equipment, the crash helmet. It's developed really over the years and is very often the difference between life and death.
The racing helmet's come a long way since the days of Moss and Fangio. As with the cars, designs have changed dramatically over the years, and the skid lid is now regarded as a crucial part of the driver's kit. Of course, the priority for a Formula One crash helmet is they must be strong and safe. But they also have to be light and comfortable. Remember, a driver pulls 3G in the corners, and these things take on 3 times their own weight. Luckily, they weigh under 1 kilogram. They're made of carbon Kevlar, and inside they're fireproof. They're tested very, very stringently, and you can see exactly why. There we go. Wow, that was dangerous.
Oh, big one! Show the laces
he's obviously had a coming together with, was it Eddie Irvine? Fire, fire, fire!
And boom, he's made a right mess of that, hasn't he? They come in all shapes and sizes and colours, as you can see. Hill and Coulthard using the same make, Villeneuve and Schumacher using the same make. This one here, Wirtz, looks a bit like Darth Vader. Not too many of those around. Look at Schumacher's helmet, it's quite interesting. On the front there's a lip, that prevents lift at very high speed. And then another duckbill at the rear. This is to help the air into the airbox, gives him a few millibars of overpressure and a few more critical horsepower. From the cockpit, oil, dirt and even the odd engine blow-up can make it almost impossible to see. When the visor does get dirty, we've got this rather basic system of 4 clear plastic strips called rip-offs. One is taken off on the start line, and the driver can take the other 3 off at his discretion through the race. He has to be careful when he's ripping them off, not to let them go in the radiators of the car behind. Another problem is, when it's raining, the water gets in between and they're virtually useless.
Race order, Hill, Lacey, Schumacher, Villeneuve.
These helmets are fitted to the drivers like Savile Row suits, and inside are plenty of instruments for them to talk to the pit. This is the main cable into the Jordan of Damon Hill. Then he has small air plugs with little speakers inside that plug into the system with a microphone at the front, so when he presses the button on the steering wheel, the pit can hear him over all of the noise. Also, there's a hole for a drinks pipe here. Many drivers like to take a drink throughout the Grand Prix. In theory, it's another advertising billboard, but helmet colours and designs remain a very personal issue.
I think it's a very simple, straightforward design, but it's the St Andrews flag, and you know, it's nice to carry that with me wherever I go.
My dad stole it from the London Rowing Club. He used to row for the London Rowing Club, and when he started racing, he thought it would be nice to have some design on his crash helmet. And the design I have on my crash helmet is that exact same one that he took from the London Rowing Club, and they're very happy about it, I hope, and it's nice to carry on the tradition.
Now then, Tony, this guy Derek's a decent-looking fellow, isn't he? Thanks largely to one of those crash helmets.
Yeah, indeed. Well, when we worked together at Lotus in 1990, the first lap of the Grand Prix there, coming out of the Parabolica, 160 miles an hour, he went into the barriers. The car destroyed itself, flipped itself upside down, but it ran upside down on his head for 300-400 yards down the track. We watched in horror. I don't think his head's been right since, actually, but...
You're making sense now. What was your view of that, though?
Why am I famous for my accidents and not my race wins? No, obviously I remember going across the circuit and I was on the head and it was rubbing on the tarmac. But what I remember is getting out of the car, running back to the pits, because I knew I had to get out within 15 minutes. Then when I got back to the pits, they wanted to take my helmet off, and I thought they wanted me to stop racing. But what happened is I'd worn the helmet away, and the inside, the lining was already coming out. So, new helmet, out, and racing.
Crikey, it's safer in here, you know.
Much safer in here. I'd rather be out there, though.
I'm sure you would. Good to have you here, though, Derek. OK, well, last weekend at Jerez, the Spanish motorcycling Grand Prix attracted a massive crowd of around 160,000 people. As Murray said at the start of the show, the Spaniards haven't got that same sort of passion for the world of Formula One. Nevertheless, a visit to the city of Barcelona remains a very pleasant experience.
It's a great city, and there's a really good atmosphere and a lot of interesting things to see.
But I know it's a very nice city. No one goes out here until about 3 o'clock in the morning, so you have to be prepared to stay up very late if you want to see any action.
It's a famous football town, many fans from Barcelona.
The King of Spain, King Juan Carlos, is here. We have a royal seal of approval for the Spanish Grand Prix. start of the Spanish Grand Prix at the Catalunya circuit to the north of Barcelona is just 15 minutes away. It's hot, hot, hot here still. Okay, British drivers have done pretty well in qualifying. We're going to have a word with a couple of them now. First of all, Johnny Herbert, 7th quickest in his Sauber yesterday, and Johnny's talking to Louise Goodman.
Johnny is indeed. Johnny, who's actually been a bit grumpy at the last couple of races, which is not like you, but you're back to mucking around again at this race. Is that a good sign of things going better?
Yeah, well, I think after the South American episode, it was good. I mean, it was disappointing race-wise, but then qualifying was okay. Beating Jean, I suppose, was the main thing. But here, the qualifying has gone better, and I'm happy the way it's going so far.
What's the story on tyres? You're about the only Goodyear runner who's gone for soft tyres. Have you made a mistake? It's hot again today. Are you going to suffer?
No, I think they probably made the mistake. I don't have any problems from what I did this morning in running. It was consistent from my first lap to the 14th lap, which is very much towards probably a little bit less, obviously, than we're going to do in the race. But if they're consistent, I think that's going to be the major factor, because from what I understand, what we did in testing the other week, the actual drop-off in performance of the tyre is actually very similar.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Have a good race, Johnny.
Thanks. Thank you, Lou. Just behind Lou and Johnny, Damon waving to the crowd. You look pretty relaxed, Damon. You just put on a pair of silly trousers for a bet as well, I understand.
Yeah, it was someone bet me that I wouldn't wear these silly trousers and for charity, so I did.
How much did you raise?
Money goes to DSA.
How much did you raise?
It's 500 quid, so it's a long story. We better not explain that one.
I think we've got the pictures. We'll show them to viewers later. You're 8th on the grid today, Damon, looking reasonably cheerful, but terrible warm-up for you this morning. What happened?
We had a problem with the brakes on the car that I did the last run on, so it didn't look too good, but the car feels much better now. And we're on, I'm much happier as well, because the temperature's going up all the time, so Johnny cheated. He used sticky tyres to get up the front there, but he's going to be in trouble in the race.
You got much of a chance in this race, do you think? You've done a lot of testing here, a lot of race testing, haven't you?
We did a lot of, well, we've done about 1,000 laps around this place, at least, so...
you know your way around, then?
We know, yeah. It gets more difficult when there's other cars on the track.
Very best of luck, Damon. Thanks.
Yes, the Down Syndrome Association benefits from Damon Hill there. What do you make just looking at those two drivers there, Derek? What do you gauge from their attitude going into a Grand Prix?
Well, they're relaxed, aren't they? You know, you can see they're both relaxed. Obviously, Johnny's happy. He's out-qualified Alesi again. And the same for Damon. He's out-qualified Schumacher, which, you know, is becoming a bit of a problem for him. And you can see he's relaxed. He's ready for the race. He's in a good mood, and, you know, he's ready for it.
It's interesting, isn't it, that we've got Villeneuve, a former world champion, down the back. Damon Hill was down the back all last season. How do they cope with that?
I think it's difficult for them. I think it's, you know, when you're always there, it's easy because you're trying to build up to get to the front. But when you're used to winning and preparing to win the race, I think when you're back after 10th place on the grid, it's difficult, you know, because it's a different mentality. You've got to race with people you don't know, and it can obviously end up in tears, which it has for Damon a few times now.
Just briefly, Tony, Damon has this massive following that we all know in Britain, despite his lack of success over the last couple of years, and he needs points quickly now.
He does need points, but he's still got that great following, as you said. But he's more comfortable with the car as well. They've worked really hard on it. One thing he says, he's able to go much deeper into the corners to brake later, and as that confidence comes, as Derek knows much better than any of us, so you get quicker and quicker. They're chipping away at it. It's great to see them gelling and coming together. It's a much happier team than it was at the beginning of the year.
Now, one thing that's going to be different on the Jordans, and just about all the cars chasing the McLarens, are the wings. I mean, we didn't like them. We thought they were monstrosities. The governing body have said no more wings. You've grabbed a Tyrrell wing there, haven't you, Tony? And they've got justification being a bit upset because they ran with them last season, didn't they?
Yeah, Mike Gascoigne, Deputy Technical Director, and Harvey Postlethwaite, they developed them for low-speed circuits to give a bit more downforce, and everyone laughed at the time, and then everyone sprouted them, and I said they all looked like antlers. And then the Prost only had one on, which showed quite a joke. They couldn't fit it on the other side. They call them penguins for some reason. But X-rated, they've actually been banned now for safety reasons. Getting caught in hoses could injure the drivers.
Are they unsafe, Derek, these?
Well, I mean, you look at them. I mean, they've been banned for ugly reasons, haven't they? I mean, they're very ugly. They sprouted up all over the cars. And, but, I mean, they're also expensive. You know, talking to Gary Anderson at Jordan, that cost him over £50,000 to develop. They're in the wind tunnel. They obviously had to mould it to the side pod. It's all made out of carbon fibre and just thrown straight into the bin. So they're obviously not very happy.
Okay, just interrupt you there. Mika Hakkinen is ready to talk to us, championship leader, championship favourite, and the favourite here today on pole, and he is with Louise.
Mika, you've made it look plain sailing. You've made it look so easy this weekend, but has it all been plain sailing?
Everything's been going very smooth. Just try to keep the car between the white lines and not to try to do any mistakes. I think the team has done extremely fantastic work this weekend, and you know, I've been trying to do not mistakes. So, you know, here's the result.
Are you surprised at how far the McLarens are ahead, or is this where you expected to be?
Well, I suppose always when somebody's 1.5 seconds, well, let's say we're talking about the next, not David, but somebody else out of the McLaren is 1.5 seconds behind. For me, it is light distance, you know, it's miles away, and that just shows, like I say, with the confidence, our domination. We are very strong at the moment.
I know you want to get in the car. We'll let you go. Thanks for talking to us.
Yes, well done, Louise. I mean, we had a joke from Mika Häkkinen at the start of the show, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, he's relaxing a bit.
Because he's winning, because the confidence has grown like anything. You know, his domestic situation is better. He's getting married in the summer and so on. But there's something else that we'd forgotten, and he talked about it recently in an interview, was last summer he said everything clicked into place, because he admitted there'd been twice when he'd been thinking about giving up, especially when he couldn't match David Coulthard. And he was chewing up his tyres and Coulthard wasn't. And he said he changed the way he worked, the way he thought, and he clicked with his engineers. He said, I found something secret with my engineers. He said, I won't tell you what it is, but it's given him that extra zip.
Just saying, coming over on television these days is a very, very important aspect of being a successful sportsman, and it's unfortunate for him, because I get the impression that there's a real nice, decent character desperate to get out there.
He's a lovely guy, and before the accident, I have to say, he was a bit of a joker. But things have changed since that big accident in Australia, to be honest, and like Tony just said, you know, last season something did just suddenly click. He's got Keke Rosberg helping him in the wings, and I'm sure he's got a lot of experience, and he's given that to Mika. But you can see, you know, he's paid compliments to the team, but he's done a fantastic job this weekend. I mean, he's really been on it.
Terrific scene here. Let me just refresh your memory how the standings look going into the Spanish Grand Prix. Mika Häkkinen, top 26 points. David Coulthard, 23. Michael Schumacher, who scored in every Grand Prix in Spain, on 20. Irvine, the only motherman in double figures. The constructors, McLaren will pass the half-century today, and running away with it, really. And the latest betting, by the way, and Häkkinen odds on to win today. Coulthard at 15-8. Michael Schumacher on 4s. And Mika Häkkinen, the Finn, is odds on to win the championship at the end of the season as well. There we are. We are all set and ready to go as the king meets the man who is the king of Formula One at the moment, Finland's Mika Häkkinen. We'll be right back with the action.